We've got the PS4 Pro, regular PS4, Xbox One, Xbox One S, and now Project Scorpio, well, when it releases. All with different hardware. But is this really a good thing? Stay tuned. Welcome back to GamerMeld. Today's video is going to be a little bit different, but before you downvote or go the inevitable route of calling me a fanboy, hear me out. I honestly love gaming. That's it. Sure, I've preferred the Xbox before, the PlayStation, PC, etc., but while I may have different preferences at different times, I just love gaming. I love the Switch, though I want more games, please. I love my Xbox, I want to get the PS4, I did have it at one point, and I love my PC. So no, I'm not trying to bash any specific brand or anything at all, I love them all. But I'm personally not liking the route consoles are going. They're trying to be what they aren't, or at least what I don't think they should be, and that's more PC-like. Let me explain. PC is the ultimate example of choice in hardware. You can choose everything from a range of graphics cards, CPUs, memory, fans, etc., etc. But it comes with a slight cost, and that's graphics overhead. Simply put, there are practically billions of different possible combinations that make up today's PCs. If programming was done how it was originally, coders would have to completely program their game for every possible variation of PC, and for obvious reasons, that's impossible. That's why you need something in between the application and the hardware. When it comes to gaming applications, there are multiple layers in development that help with this issue, from the OS to drivers to the API, etc. They all help the developers release one game for the thousands of different hardware specs in PCs. The problem is that while they've gotten far more efficient over the years, there's still a lot of overhead that occurs when accounting for variations. That means you aren't getting as much power as you could if the game was developed much closer to the metal, as it's said. Now take consoles. They too have APIs, operating systems, etc., but because they traditionally all run on the same hardware, it allows developers to get much closer to the metal and obtain every last drop of power they can. That's really why you don't see as big of a difference between a more powerful PC and consoles as you would think. Take this piece from an interview between Eurogamer and 4A Games chief technical operator, where they discussed the release of a new game at the time for the new consoles. He says, and I quote, "And let's not forget that programming close to the metal will usually mean that we can get 2 times performance gain over the equivalent PC spec. There are other reasons, like not enough development hours for scaling, developing the game for console first, etc., but a big reason you can see much older hardware keeping up with much higher speeds is mostly that." Well, you may have noticed that difference is kind of getting further and further apart. Consoles don't seem to be getting as much juice out of them as they used to. I mean, the 360 and PS3 held their own for an unbelievable amount of time. I'd say there are multiple reasons, but one is that the PS4 and Xbox One didn't have as high spec comparatively when the 360 and PS3 released. So between that and consoles' bloated software, PC APIs getting better and consoles becoming more PC-like in their hardware, so it's easier to port, we just aren't seeing where consoles are doing that great. Now, if you get a PC that's twice as fast, it kind of runs a good bit closer to twice as fast as their console counterpart. So what are console makers doing to combat this? Trying to become even more PC-like. Each iteration of console they release means that much further from the metal devs can get. Why? Developers are only given a certain amount of time to work on any given game. And back to that interview, he also stated, and I quote, "Practically achieving that performance takes some time though." Do you think they'll really begin doubling their hours to optimize just as much for the new consoles when they still have to develop for the older hardware? Of course not. Their optimization will now be split. Of course, doubling the hours is kind of an exaggeration, but still. It's also not adding a slew of new consoles, but Greenberg himself stated he thinks the future is without console generations, meaning developers would always have to make sure their brand new games worked through all platforms. Sure, in PC, they do it a little by worrying about making their game accessible to the most amount of people, but the newest of games can't work on 10-year-old hardware, it just can't. So what does that mean? 10 years from now, developers would still be forced to develop for the original Xbox One. In my opinion, that would lead to one of two things. One is that game developers are never allowed to fully up graphic fidelity because they're always having to worry about the underperforming hardware, or they just begin developing for the PC first. Now, you could argue they would just develop for the newer consoles first, but it wouldn't make devs very happy to always be concerned of previous generations. You could say, oh, well, maybe they'll just let it underperform on the older consoles, But that defeats the entire purpose of a console. The entire purpose of a console is you know it's going to work. It may not have the best performance. It may not get 90 FPS, 120 FPS, but it's going to be good enough. Now, as a counter argument, maybe developers aren't looking to up graphical fidelity much, but I really don't think that's the case, especially with things like VR. The market always wants to improve, to progress, and stagnation is never good. But maybe they think the future is game streaming. It's really tough to say. I have no doubt that they've thought about it, but I just personally think it might be a poor move, as those who want the best, as well as a much cheaper upgrade to say upping the GPU versus the whole system, will just go with PC as it evolves far more rapidly than even mid-generation upgrades. But as it was said, this supposedly isn't even a mid-generation upgrade, or at least that's what they want it to not be. There wouldn't even be a new generation. I don't know, maybe another company will take its place, or possibly the Steam box will finally shine. Who knows? So yeah, what do you think? Do you think it's a smart move, or are console manufacturers hurting themselves in the long run? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked the video, don't forget to check me out on Patreon. There's some really cool rewards, and I should actually be doing an unboxing in the next few days on there. I'll have that linked in the description. That does it for now. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe by clicking on the round icon in the middle. You can check out the most recent video and suggest a video to the left. Thanks so much for coming, and as always, have a great day.